Oh, hello there. Welcome to News, Games, and More, IGN's daily live news show. Today is Monday, August 17th, 2020, and I will be your guide today. My name is Damon Hatfield, and I am joined by Sydney Goodman.
Hi.
Justin Legary.
Bam! Hey, everybody.
You said you weren't going to bam.
I lied.
A bam psych. And Jonathan Dornbush is also
I was
here.
hoping you would intro me first so I could say bam and steal it from him.
Yeah.
But here we are.
Are you a big Emerald Lagasse, is that his last name, fan, Dustin? He's the chef from the 90s.
Don't know who that is.
He's the chef from the 90s.
What?
No, and he'd always, every time he would add spices, he goes, bam!
I haven't heard of them, so nobody can sue me.
I'm shocked.
He's like a very famous chef.
That's the biggest news of my day.
Yeah, wow. We should probably move on before we get Destin into more legal trouble. Today, we've got a bunch of fun stories to go through, some superhero games, free up-to-date to Ghost of Tsushima coming, and maybe another former Nintendo Zelda game remaster coming to Switch. But first, let's talk more about Marvel's Avengers. Jonathan, is the beta still ongoing? People can still jump in the beta?
Over the
not
weekends.
on right now.
Yeah, it doesn't happen during the weeks, but there will be a beta this coming weekend. It's an open beta for all platforms. Yeah.
Just on weekends. Well, since so many people have been getting to take it for a spin, data miners have uncovered some future forthcoming characters that are presumably going to be coming after launch. The list of characters reads thusly: Ant-Man, who I think was already heavily hinted at with the first reveal at E3 a couple years ago. Ant-Man, the Wasp, Vision, Black Panther, Doctor Strange, Falcon, Marvel, Mockingbird, Quake, Winter Soldier, Scarlet Witch, Captain Marvel, Kate Bishop, She-Hulk, and War Machine. There are a few other names like Frenzy Ultron, Red Hulk, Deathlock, Vindicator, and Monica, but these are referred to in a second data mine, and their playability is in question because they come from a list of sections that are outside of the core list of unlockable characters, so they might be unplayable characters, maybe villains, something like that. Jonathan, I know you've been following this game a lot. You've gotten to play it. How did this supposedly leaked list of upcoming characters strike you?
I mean, there's some in there that I would definitely be really excited for, and I think there's a lot of potential in to also be very different from a lot of the heroes they have, like Vision and Black Panther and Doctor Strange, and with like Ant-Man and the Wasp. Some of them, it's strange to me because when I spoke to the devs way back at PAX last year, I think it was, and so obviously things could have changed, but they were talking kind of about like every new character to them is its own class. Like they aren't really looking at there being Hulk type characters or, Hawkeye type characters. They were looking at different characters. But if this list is indicating all of the playable characters, there are definitely similar characters on the way to characters that are existing in the game. So I'm curious how they're going to differentiate them so it doesn't just feel like a reskin.
Well, yeah, but some people are wondering if they are actual reskins, since their powers are so similar between some of these characters. Do you think there's any chance that it is actually more of a reskin situation?
I don't think so, because I think they're going to use the characters in story. Like there are Easter eggs in the most recent trailers that heavily hint at Kate Bishop like being a character in the world. So it would be a little weird if Kate Bishop exists in the world, but you can also play as Hawkeye, who is also Kate Bishop. That would lead to like some strange moments, I feel, if they're trying to keep like the fiction true through every mission. I feel like that would be a little strange.
Sydney, how are you feeling about Marvel's Avengers these days? And do any of these upcoming characters look interesting to you?
Well, I think just to echo what Dornbush was saying, it would be very Doctor Strange, wouldn't it?
Yes. I love it.
But actually, that does answer your question. I think Doctor Strange would be really interesting to play as. And I don't know. I mean, I'm going to be completely honest with you. I actually played the same. I have not played the beta, but I did play the same demo that Dornbush was referring to in terms of, I think it was PAX West last year.
Yeah.
And I was pleasantly surprised in some ways, and in other ways, I wasn't completely wowed. But the character feel was what I found really fun. Specifically when you like played as Thor and you're throwing the hammer and like you really feel empowered with this hammer. And so I think I would just hope that if all of these characters come true, cool, but that it still maintains that like the game feel that kind of captured me when I got to play the builds back in September. But yeah, Doctor Strange would be cool.
Doctor Strange would be cool, but also, he's like so powerful. I don't know how you limit him so he's not OP in the game. And Destin, remind me, you checked out the beta and you thought it was okay. Is that right?
Yeah, it's okay. A few things to note, actually, in that beta, there is sort of an Easter egg teasing Quake. There's a poster that's a reference to She-Hulk. I think a lot of these characters are going to end up being support characters that you either talk to or interact with, sort of what Dornbush was alluding to when he was talking about his guess about how they'll be implemented. I think there are already skins that reference other characters within the Marvel universe, but I don't think all of these characters are going to wind up being reskins. I think some will be characters that you end up talking to, like Ant-Man, for example. We know Ant-Man was showcased in one of the early trailer assets, so
that's right.
Yeah, he is at least a support character, or maybe he'll help you in one of the story missions or something. Time will tell.
He's confirmed to definitely be a quest giver on the helicarrier that you're on. So yeah, he'll be like a character you interact with pretty frequently, I think.
Yeah, and then there's the whole Rebel base or something also, right? I can't remember if it's Rebels. It's an R word, but I don't know. A friendly base where you can go interact with them.
So, Jonathan, are these characters free or not? Because there's a lot of confusion in the comments of our article on IGN.
Yeah, as far as they have said, and they keep stipulating that this is the case, but every new DLC character is going to be free to all players. So any like new major locations or characters they add will be free DLC. They won't cost anything. They right now are only sticking to cosmetics, so different costumes being the things you can pay for. So unless these characters appear only as costumes, they might be, for purchase then. But if they are characters within the game world, they'll be free to get after launch.
I see. I don't know. So, Crystal Dynamics has been working on this game for a long time. It's almost ready for launch. They put it out for beta to sort of get feedback. And then data miners supposedly reveal information that Crystal Dynamics wasn't yet ready to reveal. Sydney, do you think that's frustrating to them, or do we assume they have to, in today in 2020, they have to assume that that's a risk when they put their game out ahead of release?
So I'm actually really glad you asked this question, because I was thinking when I was reading this, like, how likely is it that at this point, because I feel like at least once a week, we run a story that's data miners found X or data miners found Y.
Yeah.
And so at what point are developers like adding things? I don't know very much about code and data mining, but adding things in the back end to give Easter eggs, like kind of like that idea of when like studios or whether it's game studios or film studios are like leaking information for publicity. Like, could this be part of it? If it's not, leaks I find very frustrating. And I've talked at length about this pretty much every time I'm asked about it, because I feel like the developers and these people who are working on these projects and have kept this secret for years. I mean, think about how long a development cycle is. And then they don't even get to be the ones to like put it out in the public and get to share this. But like a lot of times they can maybe talk to their families about it and that's it. And then like their secret is out and it's completely out of their control. And it's maybe not the way that the company or the people who had been working on the project had planned on it. So I personally, like, while yay, I'm happy, I guess, that the fans get that information, I'm not super pumped about data mines and leaks in general.
Justin, how do you feel about it? And what do you think the likelihood is that the developers know full well that there's a risk that these can be uncovered?
I think data mining games that come out on PC especially is very, very common. Like in Destiny, we already know what's going to happen throughout the whole season, all the way through September, because it's all coded into the game. So people can kind of go in and extrapolate the lore and such. So yeah, it happens, but I think it's a small percentage of the audience that actually sort of looks for these leaked sort of stories. People who are really in the know. I think this is a wide appeal game, and I don't think that's going to impact their sales or anything. Sure, they might be a little bit disappointed, but if you look at the grander scope of their release strategy, I think it'll be just fine.
Yeah, I know there's been a little bit of I don't know if lukewarm is the right word, but it seems like the response to the open beta and then our review in progress that Tom Marks is working on, that Jonathan, I know you've talked to him about, it's a little bit less enthusiastic than maybe Square Enix was hoping. But I still feel that the game will sell well, perform well on the strength of these characters. Jonathan, would you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, not to disparage any of the work we're doing, obviously covering the game, but you're dealing with arguably the biggest entertainment franchise right now in the world. And so I think that regardless of this pre-release reception, I think that it's still going to sell extremely well when it launches. I think the matter of its success will really come down the line as they continue to update the game. If there's a player base that continues to support it, like what we see of Avengers in a year or two, I think will be more of the story of its success than its launch.
Marvel's Avengers is finally officially out on September 4th. Then we're going to talk about another game that's in the lead up to its reveal. It's encouraging fans to do some data mining. But first, we'll talk about a game that Destin's going to love because there's a raid that's going to be added to it. And Destin loves raids. This is Ghost of Tsushima. They're adding a free cooperative mode later this year called Legends. And this sounds really, really cool. It's a new experience that doesn't feature the protagonist in the proper game or his companions. It focuses on 4 warriors who have been built up as legends and stories told by the people of Tsushima. Jonathan, did you get the impression that these are the warriors whose armor you collect through the main game that they're referencing?
I think that was sort of the impression I got, and if not, I wouldn't be surprised if some of that armor, relates to the stories they tell. I definitely think it will relate to the mythic tales that you go on in the main campaign to some extent.
Yeah, I think this is really cool. I'm still in Act 3, so I haven't quite finished yet, and I'm not in any rush because I'm enjoying the game so much. Sydney, have you played Ghost of Tsushima yet?
Yeah, actually, I'm glad you said you're in Act 3 because I'm still in Act 1 because I keep getting distracted by all of the side quests.
Yeah, that happens.
But I am loving the game. It's not a typical game for me in terms of open world games. I generally find too overwhelming to get very immersed in it. I usually have a week of being really into it, and then I'm like, okay, I'm confused or I'm stuck. But I'm really loving it, and I'm a huge co-op person, so I was super excited about this news. Yeah,
I think this is really cool. And I know Jonathan's played it. Destin, how about you?
Yeah, I've played it also, and this looks really, really intriguing. I don't think I've played a game from this perspective and with this sort of style of combat mechanics that had a raid-like activity. I'm really curious to see what they end up doing with it.
Yeah, it's completely different from the single player campaign that we've been playing through. It's going to be haunting and fantastical, and there are already some fantasy elements, I guess, to the main campaign. In as much as you can play a flute and frogs will pop out of the ground, but the locations and enemies are going to be inspired by Japanese folktales and mythology, so it's leaning a little bit more into fantasy, which seems very cool. And then there's 2 different modes, as I understand it. There's a mode for 2 players, which is you go on co-op story missions together. And then the 4-player mode is a co-op, what is it, like a horde mode or survival? You go on survival missions that are wave-based. Kind of sounds like a horde mode. And then finally, that mode will also feature a 4-player raid, which I know Destin will enjoy. I don't know. What is a raid, Destin? A raid is my understanding. I don't play much Destiny, but my understanding is a high difficulty mission that a group of players go on together in order to get loot. Is that right?
I mean, yeah, that's the basic definition. I think one thing that separates a raid from what is considered a strike, which is just basically low mechanics, it's shoot everything or kill everything and then get to the end for loot. A raid usually has some more complex mechanics involved, such as syncing together or communicating in some way to solve a puzzle. Right. And I think that would be the one qualifier that would make something a raid versus something that's an easier mechanic like horde mode you mentioned.
Yeah, sure. Jonathan, what do you think about this new Legends mode that's coming to Ghost of Tsushima?
Well, I mean, speaking to what Sydney was saying earlier about, devs getting to reveal something and, leaks and whatnot. I'm so this was such a surprise, a total out of nowhere thing. We've talked to the devs a bunch. Most outlets have done post-launch interviews with Sucker Punch, and nothing even remotely was hinted at in this way that I've been able to find. So this was a really, really cool surprise. I'm really glad it's completely free to players. We reached out to them and confirmed that there won't be any like microtransactions once you download it. So like anything you're unlocking is just from gameplay. It's a really cool inclusion and like a really interesting way to keep the life of this game going afterward, because most Sony first party games tend to be pretty contained to whatever the like main campaign is. So this is an interesting way to keep that going, kind of in the vein of what they used to do with Uncharted a little bit.
Sure. Yeah, man, the PS4 could not be going out on a stronger note this year with Last of Us Part 2, Ghost, more free Ghosts coming up. They had Final Fantasy VII earlier in the year. Just really, really strong final year for a console. In Legends, you can play 4 different classes: Samurai, Hunter, Ronin, or Assassin. Sydney, which one are you? Most describes you.
I think Hunter, because I'm overly aggressive in games to a fault. I like killing things, and I don't really care if I die or not. But if you play co-op with me, I will care more. I promise. But my question was, so it was more of a clarifying one. So is this is free, a free update for everybody who already has the game, correct? Not free, like if you haven't played the game, it's not like a free to play situation.
Yeah,
No,
I think
you
you
need
have
to
to
own the game. Yeah.
Okay. Regardless, so excited. That feels like it's like but like it's a free update with a game mode that I didn't even know was coming. So I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, that's coming this fall. We're still waiting on an exact release date. Is that right, Jonathan?
Yeah, no release date, just this fall. I would guess before the PS5, but who knows at this point, right?
Yeah, although it is supposed to be playable on PS5 at launch, because it was after a certain date that Sony had, sort of declared games released after this date will be compatible on PS5. Let's talk about another game that we don't have a release date for: the long rumored next Batman game from WB Games Montreal. Heavily rumored to be a Court of Owls game that they were teasing, a year ago now, and another tease popped up this week, and people were hopeful that like tomorrow morning we're finally going to get this game revealed, the supposed Batman Court of Owls game. But now, after data miners did some digging, it kind of seems like it's going to be a thing that they're going to roll out throughout the week, maybe with the full trailer reveal on Friday. Jonathan, is that right?
Yeah, it looks like there's going to be sort of a breadcrumb trail all week. I wouldn't be surprised if what's ever being revealed Friday is a short snippet thing, though, as a prelude, because we know the game's going to be shown at DC Fandom.
And that's the 22nd, is that right?
Yeah, that's on Saturday. So we know that game is going to be there on Saturday at its like premiere reveal event. Like this is the big reveal for the game. So even if we get like some footage before then, I can't imagine it's more than a teaser. I'd be shocked if it was more than that.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I do keep forgetting about DC Fandom, which, by the way, should be a pretty cool event, because we'll still be seeing the Suicide Squad game in there as well. But okay, regardless of how this reveal is being laid out, we've talked about this before. Batman Court of Owls is a very cool story within the Batman universe. But of course, it's a Batman game not coming from Rocksteady. Rocksteady's making the Suicide Squad game. So, Destin, how does that have you feeling about this eventual game reveal?
Just show me the game. This is going to go down in history as like one of my least favorite marketing campaigns of all time. They just keep showing you like a logo or whatever. We already know it's Court of Owls, so they're just going to show a bunch of logos or have us go to some website with a bunch of text, and I'm over it. You need to show us something a little bit more substantial. Like, they're not even showing us characters. It's just logos, right? It's really like, and it's been, how long has it been going on? How long has it been going on, Dora?
A year at least, right, Jonathan?
Well,
a year.
So technically it's been going on since 2018, because back in 2018, when they confirmed the game wouldn't be shown at the Game Awards, the devs tweeted out a photo of like a staff shirt they had that had one of the logos, which is what started the whole Court of Owls conspiracy. And then they were silent.
2 years?
2 years, and then they were silent up until Batman Day last year, where they showed like 2 or 3 logos. Then in January they showed another logo, and then they've just been silent. Like it's the thing about it is like if it had just been this week of teases, like if they had just been doing this weird ARG for this website for a week, I'd be totally fine with that. I think that'd be cool. But the fact that it's just been so sporadic and there's been no indication of like when the next thing comes, it's like here's a logo, 4 months of silence. Here's another logo, 4 months of silence. Like that's where I think the frustration comes that Destin was sort of talking about.
Yeah, and I guess in all fairness, the ongoing pandemic has created challenging working conditions for a lot of people.
Sure.
So maybe they had planned to reveal this earlier, so that their teases that were coming last year would have been a little bit more understandable. But the fact that now that they're ramping up again with just more teases that sounds like they're going to roll out all week long is a little bit all right. I don't know, Sydney, what do you think? Is it too much?
So I've just been laughing this whole because it's just like so silly to me. Because like we already pretty much know what it is, and every time there's news about it, it's about more teases. Like it feels like have you guys ever watched I Think You Should Leave on Netflix? And it
I
just
love
seems
it
like,
so much.
Right? But like it feels like a sketch from that where it's just like so extreme and outlandish that it just feels like it has to be a joke.
Yeah.
And I think maybe if if they really wanted to do all of these teases for whatever reason, I think maybe if the teases were a little bit more ambiguous so that, and there was some like puzzle stuff to actually figure things out, but it was just kind of like, oh, look, like it's probably Court of Owls. And then there was like another tease that was like, oh, you got us. It's still probably this thing. Like there was no mystery. Like, I don't know, just show us the game, please.
Yeah. Jonathan, do you feel pretty confident that this is Court of Owls?
Pretty much. I like there's the first teaser they ever did was Court of Owls based, and ever since then it just feels more reinforced. I think it's got to be. If it isn't, that would be a bigger surprise than any of these logos have been. But
maybe this is just a huge misdirect. It's not Court of Owls. It's something entirely different. It's not even
Batman.
Well, we learned about Suicide Squad recently, right? And that's gonna. It seems like it's gonna be us hunting Superman, and this is another game that seems like it's going to be Batman Court of Owls, which is focusing on the villain. So, sort of just interesting that they decided to go with two bad guy perspective games that are well, at least one is hunting good guys confirmed, or somebody that is traditionally seen as good guy, Superman. I wonder what they're going to do with this. So you're going to play as the Court of Owls and you're going to hunt Batman, or is Batman going to hunt the Court of Owls?
I think you're playing as Batman.
Yeah. In
so.
In the stories, he's uncovering the mystery of this secret society that's been ruling Gotham for hundreds of years, which is the Court of Owls. So I would still imagine we're playing as Batman. But it's not being made by the lead Batman team, Rocksteady, that made the Arkham trilogy. So I don't know. So I wonder, Destin, do you think all these teases is because they feel like they have to like work harder to build up hype and anticipation because it isn't the lead Batman team?
Potentially, like what Sid said about if this had been or one of you guys said this would be like a week-long build-up to a thing, that would be perfectly acceptable. But 2 years of like tiny teases, it's fatigue, right? Like, all right, we get it. You have a thing you want to announce, and just show us already.
Yeah. All right. Before we wrap up today's episode, let's talk about Nintendo. Nintendo loves re-releasing older games on the Nintendo Switch. We got Pikmin 3 coming up in October. And the latest rumor is for Zelda Skyward Sword, which was a Wii game. A listing for a Switch version popped up on Amazon. And although the listing was since pulled down, you can still see in the URL, Legend Zelda Skyward Sword Switch is still in the URL on Amazon. So it seems pretty likely that this is actually happening. Jonathan, what's your read on this?
Store page leaks are really tough because we had like that infamous Walmart gaming leak a couple years back that pretty much leaked the entire E3 lineup for a year. Had a lot of big game reveals in it, but a lot of times these are also just like best guesses by those companies, and someone accidentally flipped a switch and turned a page live. I think even last year Best Buy listed Link to the Past as a Nintendo Switch release. So and a couple other games that have never been announced for Switch. So you get weird placeholder pages that do get made by someone internally just in case an announcement is happening because they saw a rumor about it. So it really is honestly like a 50-50 case. Do I think Nintendo is probably going to port some Zelda games to Switch? Probably, yeah. But
Wow.
I don't know
Hot take.
if this, I know the big surprising take, but I don't know if this page necessarily was like an accidental leak because Amazon UK had the information. It could just be sort of like a serendipitous coincidence.
I've actually never played Skyward Sword, although I'm a big Zelda
Really?
fan. Yeah, it came out at a time that I was really not feeling the Wii and the fact that the motion controls and the fact that it was not an HD console in the year 2011 when this came out, and I've been gaming on my 360 for 6 years and enjoying HD games. So I was just kind of like feeling over it. So I actually would welcome the opportunity to revisit it. But Destin, it sounds like you did play it.
I did play. Yeah, was this when Rich was still at IGN?
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
Rich and Jose, and yeah, I think I did some videos for it or whatever. But I really enjoyed the game quite a bit. I would be happy to play it again without motion controls. To your point, but what if you got to take off the Joy-Cons and swing your arms around all over again? Are you still into it, Damon?
Well, but see, that causes a problem for all the Nintendo Switch Lite owners out there. They literally can't do that.
Ooh.
That's good.
So like, I don't even know how they would. It would be.
They just gotta shake the whole thing, the whole unit, right?
Turn it
Can you
vertical.
imagine like being on the bus with somebody and they're playing this game and they're just like viciously shaking their Switch Lite?
Yeah.
No, I would like to play this, and it would be just wonderful if more people could experience this story because it was just in this awkward time for the console that you mentioned. I can't remember. It was Wii, right?
Yeah, it was the Wii, 2011.
Yeah, 2011.
I mean, the Wii was a phenomenally successful console, so it definitely had an audience there that could have made this game successful. I actually don't know if it sold well, for a Zelda game or not. Sydney, did you ever play The Legend of Zelda: Skyward Sword?
I didn't. I'm actually not like Zelda's a huge blind spot for me in a weird way. I think because my dad didn't really care for Zelda. And so growing up with like all of our Nintendo products, it was just basically whatever my dad would buy. And like he never got Zelda. And so I just never really got into it. But similar to you, I mean, I think it'd be cool to revisit it if it was on Switch. Like I'm definitely not going to dig out a Wii and try and play it now. But yeah, I don't know. I just hope that, oh my gosh, sorry, there's a knot in my neck and it really hurts.
Oh my gosh.
That was weird. Anyways.
Justin, can you just reach over and sort of get rid of that?
I'll take it. Wouldn't it be crazy if there was just a hand that like emerged from
comes in and
well, it'd be from out my window. I just have like a strange
wow.
Anyways, can they like port an old Kirby game, please?
Oh, like which one? Like how old?
Crystal Shards is my favorite.
Okay.
And like I have it on 64 and I play it every once in a while, but it's a horrible experience. But I feel like they keep porting all of these other games, and then there's like in terms of like Zelda, and then these rumors of these Mario games, and it's like people like Kirby.
That's true.
I like Kirby. Please.
There've been a pretty steady cadence of new Kirby games, I think, over the years. But yeah, there's lots of good ones that I think would be good candidates for remasters. Jonathan, did you ever play Skyward Sword?
Played the first, I think, few hours of it and then bounced. It's sort of in the same vein as like Twilight Princess. I felt like the beginning is like way too handholdy, even compared to some other Zeldas. So I decided to stop playing it, but I've actually always been interested in going back to it because I know it's, for people who are really into the Zelda timeline, it's very instrumental and important to all of the Zelda lore. So actually I've always wanted to play it to kind of like experience what that story is.
Yeah, the story is supposed to be pretty cool. Our own Per Schneider says it has like the most emotional moment of any Zelda game. So I don't even know what that is, but that sounds interesting to me. Well, next year, 2021 will be the 10th anniversary of Skyward Sword. So that would be a pretty good time to put this out if it's real. But then this year is the 35th anniversary of Mario. So like, Jonathan, where are these Mario remasters that were rumored months ago?
I mean, it's very clear Nintendo's year has changed, even though they keep saying it hasn't. It's definitely, we haven't had a full proper Nintendo Direct since I think September last year. There have been a couple of showcases. We're having the Indie World Showcase tomorrow, but like other than that, it's been very quiet for Nintendo, and so I think they're kind of uncertain of where or when to announce things right now, just to figure out when it makes the most sense, especially when you have 2 other big consoles supposed to be dropping this year. The Mario releases still make sense for this year, and they've been, they revealed Paper Mario and then it was out within a month. So they could easily reveal those Mario remasters and then they're out within a month. But next year is also, I think, the 35th anniversary for Zelda. So next year definitely makes sense for any potential ports, like the franchise as a whole. So I think that makes sense.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be mad though if this would make no sense for the timeline, but if they didn't do the Mario remasters and instead they did it next year and their E3 booth was all like timeline of all of the Mario stuff, because I was looking forward to that so much.
Yeah,
when
they always
a
do.
rumor came out, and their booth is always the best.
Yeah, it is. I mean, hey, hopefully there is an E3, a real E3 next year. Nothing is confirmed.
Nothing is certain.
That's true. Sydney, since you've been enjoying Ghost of Tsushima, you might want to check out Breath of the Wild after that. It's another open world game.
I gave Breath of the Wild 8 hours.
Okay,
and I
that's
am
fair.
so stuck. And that's the bummer, is I really like it, but I am so monumentally stuck. I'm in a situation where I have to eat. I got myself in this cold area and I keep dying, and I have to make a recipe to be warm, but I don't have enough to make enough so that I can get out of the cold area I'm stuck in. And at that point I was like, whatever, I'm not going to start this game over again. I'm done. So I did really like the 8 hours I played though. It was very enjoyable.
Can't you fast travel to towers you've been to already? Isn't that a thing?
I don't have fast travel yet.
Oh my gosh. Well, 8 hours is enough time to know whether a game is for you or not. I guess that will about do it for another edition of News, Games, and More, this Monday edition. Thank you to Jonathan, to Sydney and Destin. Thank you to Red, working behind the scenes. And thank you for everyone for spending a little bit of your Monday evening with us. We will be back the same time, same place tomorrow with more News, Games, and More. We'll see you then.